Well, welcome back to the Be Unexpected podcast. And today we have Kyler Erickson with us. How are we doing today, Kyler?
Good, really good. How are you both doing?
Doing good, man.
Good.
Right on.
Excited to kind of dive into your story a little bit with Wyatt and I and kind of share some things and talk about maybe how we kind of got to know each other at UNO. But got a lot of things that happened in your life kind of led up to today. So starting at Millard South, it's everything that happened there, and then leading into Northwest Missouri State and just kind of things you dealt with there, leading to UNO, getting a shot with the basketball team, and now kind of doing a lot of different things. So maybe you want to share with us what you're up to other than speaking right now.
Yeah, 100%. So you kind of touched on it, but had played 2 years at Northwest Missouri State, and then my last four at UNO for for a total of six, which is crazy. But since then, I've been doing the TV and radio for the Omaha men's basketball team. So alongside Gary Sharp, and before COVID, they had done some TV games through the Midco Sports Network, ESPN Plus, that I was working those as well. So I've done that the last 4 years. And keeps me close to the team. I love watching hoops and staying around it, which has been nice. And then I also work for a company called Builder Trend, and phenomenal company. It's a construction technology company here in Omaha, and the founder and CEO Dan Houghton actually officiated our wedding, and he's one of the best guys you'll ever meet. So really proud and happy to work for a company like that. Do a lot of community service in Omaha too. So kind of a mix of a few things on top of the speaking, but nonetheless, super pumped to be hanging out with both of you here today.
Yeah. So growing up, Kyler, was basketball just like always your main focus as a kid? Like how'd you first get into basketball?
Yeah, it really was. For me, I had the little Tykes hoop, if you guys remember those, and every door in the house, we'd have one of those door hoops. And everywhere you look, there's a hoop. And so I just loved, no matter what I was doing, I want to play basketball, and I would be up at, I think it was 6 or 6:30 almost every morning, and my parents probably want to kick me out of the house, because I was always dribbling a ball, always shooting hoops. I grew up idolizing, Creighton, UNO, Nebraska, and for me, I was always I just was very short and not super athletic, and so it was like I, from the start, I knew like I'm just gonna have to outwork everybody. I'm not gonna win on talent, not on height. It's like I'm just gonna have to stay in the gym longer. And so growing up, thankfully, I loved it enough that I just did it every hour of every day.
And
Yeah.
then I saw did you also play soccer too growing up?
I did, yeah. So it was funny, but the way they got me, they recruited me. Tim Williams was a soccer coach at Millard South, and they had said that soccer not only is the best for you in getting your stamina up, but you can also see passing lanes ahead of time. So with soccer, if you're watching the World Cup, they got to kick it, way ahead of the run that's being made. So at the time they make it they connect, and so it's similar with basketball. So I actually loved soccer and grew up playing soccer too, but I just knew I wasn't super good at it, but loved playing it.
So you said that, you weren't the most athletic, so I bet you had to really just focus on your fundamentals. And when did you start to see like that change in your basketball career from like going to just like a bench player or a role player to like a starter?
Yeah, for me it was funny. If you know those AAU teams, which now are everywhere, but back in the day there was like two. It was the Nebraska Bison, and there was one other one. I can't remember the name of it, but I would try out every single year, pay the fee, and I'm sure my parents, when they were driving me, they're like, "This kid's got no chance," and that's how I felt. But I would go try out, get cut, of course, every single time. And so I really had this decision, and this is what I try to instill in, the kids and the athletes I'm around today. It's like, okay, either I can blame the coaches and I can blame the world and say it's their fault. They don't like me. They have a vendetta against me, which isn't true. Or I can take responsibility. I can look in the mirror and I can say, look, I'm not very good at basketball. Okay. How can I change that? And so that was a choice for me. It's like I'm sick of blaming, and nowadays and today it's like I don't want to blame the government. I don't want to blame anybody else. It is my life and my responsibility. So if I'm bad at something, I'm going to give it everything I can to get better. And so that's just what I did. I lived in the gym, lived in the weight room, There was a coach in Millard South, Steve Throne, and Tim Lucian. And Tim Lucian's still the head coach at Millard South, but he was like the one guy who thought, this kid's not very good, but I'm at least going to spend time with him. And so every morning I was in the gym. He let me shoot. He acted like I was good, and he really propelled me and made me believe in myself when I knew at that time I just was not very good.
Yeah. Yeah. He kind of sounds like he took a genuine interest in you, and he just kind of worked with you, even, maybe you didn't see the best, but he still took a genuine interest in who you are. So that's pretty cool. And
100%.
so leading up to that, so I remember, I think I was in 7th or 8th grade and seeing Millard South, and you were like, what, all state? And you had these recruiting options to go to different schools, and you ended up going to Northwest Missouri State. But before that, was it your senior year at Millard South? It was 2011. School shooting happened. And when that happened, did that affect your, obviously you shared about how it affected you in many ways, mentally and physically. After that, how did you respond and like cope with things after that day in January 2011?
So a few things. Yeah. It was hands down, and anybody, around Millard South would say the worst day of all of our lives for many reasons. But what I will tell you is before that, and I think all of us just instinctively, we're all part of different groups, and in high school and really in life, we want to be this idol and this role model. We want people to look up to us. And if you had asked me before the shooting, if you had asked me what I want my life to be about or what I want to be known for, I would have said to you, I want to be one of the best basketball players to ever come through Millard South. I would have said, I want to be known for putting a ball through a hoop. And after the shooting, it became so real to me. It's like, life is so much more than that. And not to discourage basketball, and sports are still my life and have been a big part of my life. But what it should be is you and I, and all three of us have talents, things we're good at, right? We shouldn't do them for the sake of us getting rap and for us becoming cool, right? We should do those to get our message out, to make the world a better place. And so instead of me playing basketball to break the records, it's like, I'm going to play basketball, use my talents, what God gave me. It's like, I want to use that to get my message out to the world about something bigger than myself. And so that was the realization after the shooting. But in terms of the shooting, there were several of us in the office that day where the shooting happened. We were just a few feet away from everything we saw, everything we heard, and it was horrible, something straight out of a movie. And since then, and the next few weeks, next few months, I was later diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder and depression. And as an 18-year-old kid, it's like, I don't even know what that is, I don't even can hardly drive a car, I don't know how to deal with depression, post-traumatic stress disorder. And so it was very scary. And I think, like a lot of us, and thankfully nowadays you've got DeMar DeRozan, you've got Kevin Love, you've got these athletes coming out and talking about their depression and mental health, which is really, really cool to see. But back then there wasn't as much of it. And so I just was very scared of what people would think of me, scared of what people would say about me. And so I had a few different opportunities to play at smaller schools. Northwest Missouri State was where I landed. A phenomenal basketball school. They've been to, the Division II national champs, I think the last 4 years in a row. Yeah. And so a really good school. And that's where I landed, was Maryville, Missouri.
Yeah. Yeah. So when you got to Maryville, what was it? Were you kind of, you knew these things, you needed some more help, and you ended up leaving, and then coming back to Omaha. But when you got there, did you feel like, oh, this is going to be a great college experience? Northwest Missouri State, great people there, I'm sure. It just didn't work out. So maybe you want to share like what was going through your mind when you got there that first year.
Yeah, so a few things, but you're right. When you think of Northwest Missouri State, it's a big party school. Everyone who goes there loves it, and everyone was telling me all these things. And so in my head, I'm like, this place is paradise, and it is a very good place, a lot of good people. But what really was going on in my brain was I was dealing with a lot of the effects of the shooting. And so the post-traumatic stress disorder, the depression, and the worst part for me was the flashbacks. So I lived in a co-ed dorm. Anytime a girl would scream, it would trigger the shooting. Every time, if you'd watch the first 48 or scary movies, any gunshots at all, it immediately took me back to the day of the shooting. And it was so bad that I would just curl up in a ball in the corner of the room and cover my eyes and ears. And it was just this thing that I couldn't get out of. And again, as a good athlete that people look up to, it's like, I don't want to be seen as weird. I don't want people to think of me differently. And so I just held it all inside. And what ended up happening, I just lived that way for the next 4 or 5 months. And then I got to practice one day, and I hadn't been eating, hadn't been drinking. I got kidney stones twice because I just wasn't taking care of my body, was hospitalized from those kidney stones. And so I walk into practice a few months later, and I just started bawling my eyes out. There's an athletic trainer, Kelly Quinlan's her name, at Northwest Missouri State, a human or an angel of a being. And I went into her office, and she was obviously very confused, and just told her everything that was going on, what I was seeing, what I was dealing with, how I was feeling. And the thing she said to me was something I'll never forget. She's like, Kyler, we're going to get through this together. And there's something so powerful about, being together. And so for me, that was huge. So she got me in touch with a counselor and a therapist. And so the decision to come back to Omaha was, first off, I needed some serious help. And there's licensed therapists and counselors here who did and were able to help me. And twofold of that, I always dreamed of playing Division I basketball. And so Northwest, very good. And really any level of college basketball is really good. But my dream was to come back home. They're in the transition to Division I. It's like, if I can get my brain right, if I can get my body right, maybe I can take a chance at playing Division I in Omaha.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big jump. Go from D2 to D1. And so when you did you walk on at UNO, or did they offer you a scholarship, or what happened?
Yeah, so I walked on. Tyler Irwin, who's now the Midland head coach. So I left several voicemails for him, and then sent him some emails too. It was like, hey, this is who I am. And they had heard of me. They knew a little bit from high school, but I just peppered them relentlessly, trying to get a spot on the team. And I finally got them on the phone, and they were like, we don't have a spot for you. And to me, this was crushing. But in my mindset, in my head, maybe delusional, maybe not, but I'm like, there will be a spot that opens up. So in the meantime, I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to lift weights. I'm going to do sprints. Like, I'm going to keep up as if I was on the team. And a few weeks later, they had so many injuries that they needed a scout team player, essentially. And so that's how I got my in. I was on the scout team for a year. Ended up playing 4 years at UNO. So my first 3, I was a walk-on. And then my 4th year was on full ride scholarship, won a few national awards. And it really was this kind of all-American underdog dream come true. And so I'm very thankful for the staff and that they let me on via the emails and phone calls.
What awards did you win?
Yeah, so I was a part of the All-State Good Works team, if you've heard of that. So there's 5 players across the country. If you remember Siobhan Shields from Nebraska, he was actually on the team. So 2 of the 5 in the whole country were from Nebraska, which was really cool. And the first time anyone from UNO had ever been a part of the All-State Good Works team. And so what they did, they flew us down to the Final Four in Houston, Texas, got to meet Hakeem Olajuwon, Shaka Smart, who's the Marquette head coach now, Bill Raftery. So a bunch of big names, got a picture with Bill Self. And so we did a community service project down there, and it was a really cool honor. But also just to put UNO in Omaha, there's this video of us at halftime of the Final Four game, and there's just, me in my Omaha jersey. And so it was really cool for me because I know how much marketing dollars and revenue that can create and some buzz around the school and the city that I love so much.
Yeah, that's awesome. I do remember seeing those pictures and you going down there. So that's awesome. Kyler, do you want to share some maybe your favorite memories with the UNO team, winning games or just little moments? Like specifically, I remember, so I was a student manager at UNO in 2016. And as a student manager, you're not doing the glamorous things, you're doing the laundry, we're doing whatever. And I remember one time, I don't know if it was after you guys beat South Dakota State or USD. It was my first year and I didn't really know you guys very well. And I was in front of the bus just eating, I think, my Chick-fil-A. And your
Yeah.
guys were like, Burnside, come back. And you just like took a genuine interest in me. So like that's one of my memories. You want to share some of yours?
Yeah, that's awesome. And what you said too is so true. The biggest thing, and this is what makes sports so
Mm-hmm.
special, is the relationships, right?
Right.
Like
Right.
people of all walks of life, different places of the world, you get to meet them, get to know them, and they become your family. So for me, it was the relationships. I
Mm-hmm.
got to meet, you both, and the coaches who, we still talk to every week or every few weeks, and
Yeah.
and so when things get rough or when things are good, like you got married a few months ago. I got married as well. It's like that's when your coaches reach out, and that's when things,
Right.
whether things are good or whether things are bad, you always need good people in your life, and that's what sports provides for so many kids and adults. Um, but I think so we took a trip to Italy,
Mm.
played a tournament over there, which was an incredible time traveling the world and getting to hang out, with your best friends and your teammates. Beating Marquette
Mm.
was a highlight. We beat Iowa as well at Iowa.
That was cool.
Played at Iowa State. They beat us by 45. But we'll keep the score out of it,
Yeah.
And so just playing at some of those arenas and a walk-on kid from Millard South
Mhm.
playing against Monte Morris and some of these bigger guys who are in the NBA now. It was really a dream come true. And then you've got family and friends. Playing in your hometown, I think, is so underrated. And I'm not trying to dog on anybody who leaves their hometown, but what was so special with
Mm.
me is like my family and my nephews and all my friends would drive 5-10 minutes to Baxter, watch me
Mhm.
play, and that was the best part. I could hear them cheering and make them proud. And so
Mm.
again, it just for a kid who didn't have a whole lot growing up and not very good at much, I just wanted to make something out of my life to make those proud who took a chance on me, and hopefully I did that.
Was there anybody on the court that you really gelled with? Like there are certain teammates like they just play together and they know what the other one's gonna do before it happens.
Yeah, a few that come to mind, like Tradeon Hollins, he led the country in steals back-to-back years. So essentially, what my role on the team was I would guard the opponent's best player, and then on offense, I would just get out of the way, And so let Tradeon, Trayshawn, Marcus Tyus, Mitch Hahn, Jake White,
Mm.
essentially give them the ball and let them go to work. That's how I gelled with them. So yeah, I mean, but it is fun, and Traydon went to Central, who I will say we were 2-0 against in high
Mm.
school. But it is fun as you get to play with them, get to know them, you kind of know what they're
Mhm.
doing, and again, I think the off the court stuff is just as important too. When you need somebody to pick you up or to celebrate times with that you've got family there with you.
Nice. Nice. Kyler, how did you get into leading into more of the speaking, the motivational speaking? Did you just kind of start with some small high school groups, some small companies? Did they ask you or did you start reaching out?
Good question. So this was when I was still in school. A big part of me coming back to UNO and trying to make something really with my life, but also my
Mm-hmm.
basketball career was like, I want to take this story, and I don't just want to keep it for myself. It's like I
Right.
want to make the world a better place, and I also think so. This is and I'm far from a perfect Christian, and but what really drove me was I knew that day, like I can either see the world as these random events that just happen and um, there's no sense behind it. And then the shooting would really have no relevance and there'd be no point to it. Or I can think and believe, which is what I do believe, that God has a plan for us. And however full of adversity that might be, maybe I was meant to be, near the shooting that day. And maybe I was meant to deal with these mental health issues so that I can help other people who are going through the same. And so that's how I saw it. And so I really wanted to take the story and just make something good of it. I wanted to try my best to when I look back on my life, what scares me is if I regret my life or if I'm not proud of what I've done. So everything I do, I'm just geared towards like, what will I think when I'm 95 and on my deathbed and I can't remember my first name? It's like, what will I think in that moment? So for me, I just started at local youth groups and some smaller middle schools and put out some tweets and some Facebooks. It's the beauty of social media is you can get your message out really quick. And with playing at UNO and, the coaching staff helped me quite a bit too, but we started lining up schools, and back then there was no NII deal. So you couldn't get paid for anything. In fact, if you ate too much at a buffet, you'd get like fined, and so and so there was this kind of balance between doing it but not promoting it and like not being my agent or not taking any free food, any free money from it, because we could get the team and the school in trouble. So nowadays, of course, you can do all of that. But so I did everything for free for the 3 or 4 years that I was at UNO. And then once I graduated, I was able to make more money, which allowed me to do more traveling and spread my message more. And so it just started really small. And that's what I would say for any entrepreneur or anybody trying anything is like, you got to start somewhere. And after you do it a few times, you get more confidence and people start following you. And so I now work for a speaking agency called the Fisher Agency out of Oakland, California. And so they send me all the gigs, and I've got my own website and stuff too, where some leads come in, but most of it is through Chris and the Fisher Agency.
Nice.
How did you get in contact with them? Did they contact you or did you contact them?
So a guy out from Lincoln, actually, if you've heard of the Bay Skate Park, his name is Mike Smith. And so he was the original guy. He had worked or did this tour with Vans and Jostens Renaissance. And so I went on Mike's tour bus with him for right around a year. And so when we got done with that, met a lot of people, had a lot of connections, really fine-tuned my kind of speaking skills. And that just sent me, a bunch of different gigs and a bunch of different people. And so you have to, life is definitely a people game. And so the more people, the more connections, the better off you'll be. And that's why I like sports networking it's so fun and a big part of life.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's really cool just to talk with you a little post years, under a few years of experience of speaking, and just how important just the relationships and the people in your life, how they've made an impact in your life. So that's awesome.
Yeah, man, I'm trying to find a balance too, and probably like you too, with your wife and kid coming up, which is amazing. It's like I don't really want to be on the road that much, so it's hard to find the balance. And I also I think and you might feel this way too, but well, I'm old now. I just turned 30, so I don't know where life goes from here. But I almost want to be like not in the spotlight as much, if that makes sense. Like I want to focus on being a good husband and being a good father someday. And so it is a tough balance between how do I get this message out and still help a lot of people while still being a good husband and father. And so that's kind of where I'm at nowadays.
Sweet. That's awesome, man. So 2 more things. So what is one thing you want to leave with people who are listening? And what is one thing that you're doing these days to bring you joy, maybe you and your wife, that you guys do?
The first part of that, and probably the most important thing that I would say is for most all of us, the 99.9% of the world population, life is really, really hard. We get beat up, we get knocked down. When we get back up, we get knocked down again. And it can feel like this endless cycle of getting beat down. What I would encourage and beg and what I pray for is that if you need help, that you get the help that you need, because we all deal with so many different, divorces or loss of a family member, loss of a job. I mean, we all go through so many different things that we can feel very alone, and it feels like the world is crumbling. And so please know that if you're in that spot and you're in that situation, there are people around you who love you, who care about you, who want to help. And if you feel like you don't have somebody like that, you can call me, you can message me, whatever I can do. I know you two feel the same way about mental health and about helping people. So please, if you're in that spot, just get the help you need, because we love you. And when you get through this, think of all the cool things that you'll be able to do with your life. And that's what makes life, is like, we've all been through crap, quite honestly. What can we do with that crap? You know, how can we turn that into something good? And so that's what I would say to everybody watching this. And then secondly, for my wife and I, we love to travel. We are trying to book like an Alaskan cruise for this year sometime. We've done, I told you we got married in Florida, and we did our honeymoon in Mexico. So we've been beaching quite a bit, which is awesome. I'm not complaining, but we were like, okay, maybe we do something else. So we're trying to book an Alaskan cruise, but otherwise we like to work out quite a bit. The big part of the mental and physical side of it is like they go together so well. You both know, being athletes too, but so I bought like a sauna in my house and a row machine and built like a home gym, just because if you're not working out, if you're not moving your body, it's hard to feel good mentally. And so I put a really big emphasis on, you know, my physical shape as well. But yeah, those are a few things. I love being around basketball, still calling the games, and yeah, that's about it. I'm trying not to get fat. You know, that's like my my main goal as I get older. It's like, all right, I gotta stay in shape. You know, because I talk to Tyus and all those guys, and they tell me I'm gaining weight, so I gotta keep them off me.
You ever just go play scrimmage with any of those guys, or I guess at the Y or anything?
I do still like to play. I don't play a ton. You know, it's hard for me to turn off the the competitive switch. So it's either like I'm playing to win the game, or I'm not playing at all. So I do still like to play quite a bit. In the summer, I'll go back up to Millard South and just play open gym and try and stay in shape. But yeah, it's about, shoot, man, one or two trips up the court, I am huffing and puffing, and yeah, not great. But yeah, are you both playing at all?
I would say you got to be winning if you're going to Millard South freshman open gym. You know?
Yeah, you got to show them what's
up. I'll play like versus 7th and 8th grade. That way I feel good. You know, like
clear it out.
Yeah.
No, man, he's gonna play center.
Yeah. What do you guys play it all still?
Yeah, I shoot like try to play every day almost.
Nice, man. Good for you.
Like, I'm just gonna be like the old dude that just keeps playing. Like, I don't like lifting or just running. I'd rather just play a sport. So
yeah.
Dude, I don't think I played a full court game in probably 2 years.
Oh, wow. Dang, really?
You get back.
Yeah, I feel it. That's so funny though. If someone was like tell me to go run and do something, it's like I can't run very far. But when we're playing basketball, it's like okay, I can. You know, it's more helpful to play something. I think.
Yeah. Well, hey Kyler, we appreciate you joining us. Thanks for being open and vulnerable about your story, and we're just thank you for sharing that. I know it's not easy. You know, Wyatt and I share our story, and just it's a part of our story, each little part. And God's placed us in certain places. So I just thank you for being open about that.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Kyler.
Of course, yeah. Thank you both for having me. I'm honored to be on your show. I know you had some really cool guests. I also know you both have a ton going on, so I appreciate your time and you having me on here. So, and hopefully one day we'll get back on the court and I'll be able to run up and down a little bit. But until then, again, thanks so much and really appreciate you having me on here.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate it.